A major leap is coming after Jaime Jaquez Jr. accepted the disappointments of his sophomore season. I'm here to break down what improvements we could look to see from Jaquez and really how that could greatly improve this Miami Heat team. I'll break down all of that on this episode of Heat Digest. But first, before we get to the news and information, please do remember to go down and click that subscribe button if you're a part of the near 80% currently watching this video, not currently subscribed to the channel. We do appreciate the love and support, so thank you guys. But now let's get to it and break down where Jaquez goes from here. Now, Jaime Jaquez Jr. coming out of UCLA 2 years ago was phenomenal as a rookie. There's really no way to argue against that. He came fourth in the Rookie of the Year voting, only behind very established rookies like Wembanyama, Brandon Miller, and even Chet Holmgren. These guys are established. They are very good young players. And Jaime Jaquez Jr. is not far behind that pool, if you will. And the reason I say that, and yes, I understand, Chet and Victor Wembanyama, as well as even Brandon Miller, have great size, great stature, and great length overall, and have ability to do really everything on a basketball court, from handling the basketball, being a great defensive presence around the rim, as well as being extremely athletic, and obviously the offensive package they all maintain. The ability to put it on the floor, the ability to spot up and shoot, despite being so large in size with such a great wingspan. All these guys have those abilities. But Jaquez only being 6'7", and it feels weird saying being only 6'7", but in the NBA, especially when you're comparing someone like Jaquez to guys in Brandon Miller, guys in Victor Wembanyama, and Chet Holmgren, who are 7 feet, 6'11 plus, that have such a great package of skills and abilities, it seems like Jaquez is in a just diminished in some sense, only being 6'7", being more of a slashing forward, one that can set up the offense as well as go downhill to the basket and get fouled, go to the free throw line and shoot a high percentage. It's more of an old school type of game in comparison to these new stretch fives, if you will, players that should be playing the 4 or the 5 that can really play any position on the floor and really do anything on the basketball court. That is why Jaquez really gets diminished when they look back at that rookie class. But again, he was phenomenal. Now, if you look at his sophomore season, it was a tale of 2 different years. And I mean that literally, in the sense that his rookie year, coming in fourth in that Rookie of the Year, playing very well as a rookie, substantial minutes off the bench, and even starting in certain situations for this Miami Heat organization. Going into that sophomore year, it felt like, that there was a lot of hype. There was a lot of optimism surrounding Jaime Jaquez Jr. Not to be the number 1 guy on this Miami Heat team, but to be a substantial piece on this Heat team as a 3-and-D type of slashing, scoring type of player that can also defend at a very high clip. Now, that did not happen. Jaquez dealt with injuries as well as stomach issues all season long, and because of that, it felt like he was never able to find a rhythm. He was never able to really get on track for long stretches of this season, which resulted in him just not being able to find his footing, not finding a groove, not finding a spot on this Heat team where he could be a piece consistently in and out of the starting lineup. Again, it didn't work from start to finish for Jaquez, and it's unfortunate because there was a lot of optimism, like we mentioned earlier, surrounding a young 25, 26-year-old Jaime Jaquez Jr. that showed us so much potential in his rookie year. So we're going to cite this article written by Anthony Chang that goes on to discuss Jaquez and Eric Spoelstra's quotes about really what took place in the sophomore season for Jaquez. So we'll start with this. Quote, "It was very humbling. It was a very humbling year," Jaquez 24 again emphasized. Quote, "You can take that and learn from it, or you can take it and get worse. So there's so many things to do, but I'm taking the approach to just learn, dive into the film, continue to work on my game, and continue to get better and come with a different ferocity next year." So to start with this quote from Jaquez, who again is only 24 years of age, extremely young, only going into his 3rd NBA season, he has the right mentality. And thank God he is in this Heat organization, because again, this is the right organization to be a young player and hope to develop it, because of not only the veteran leadership that has already been established on this roster in Kevin Love, Udonis Haslem, who is now a part of the coaching staff, but he is basically still a player with how active and how on a first-hand basis, how hands-on he actually is. You can still consider him a player. But again, the idea is the same. Kevin Love, Udonis Haslem, now Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero. These guys are gaining experience year after year. And again, they are getting into the playoffs, regardless of it being through the play-in or the 8th seed in the Eastern Conference. They are getting into the playoffs, which means they are playing in meaningful games. They are playing in games that absolutely matter when it comes time. Now to continue in the article. Along with dropping out of the Heat's rotation after playing in each of the first 45 games, he was available for the regular season. Jaquez also missed 5 games this regular season because of a stomach illness and 3 games in March because of a sprained right ankle. And that wasn't it. Obviously, in March, he did miss time. That is very true. But if you go back to the preseason, in the offseason, if you will, Jaquez leading in to the NBA season, right through the NBA summer camp, if you will, he sprained his ankle going into the NBA season. So going into the season hot, feeling good, boom, you're immediately sidelined and you missed games. Regardless if you could play in the first 45 games, I understand that. But those first stretch, the first 10 days to 2 weeks, Jaquez was not 100%. He wasn't able to really start on a hot ankle, if you will, because again, he did sprain it, which did set him back just a little bit. Now a quote from Erik Spoelstra. Quote, he'll work on everything, Heat coach Erik Spoelstra said of Jaquez at the start of this offseason. Quote, he had a really good summer last summer. Then he sprained his ankle right before the training camp. These are not excuses, but it led to some of the inconsistencies of his play or his role. Now, the wording is very interesting here. Again, this being a quote from head coach of the Miami Heat, Erik Spoelstra, saying, but it led to some of the inconsistencies of his play or of his role. Again, that is very meaningful, not only in the sense of his overall production statistically, where he'd go out there and give us 14 to 16 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, whatever it may have been. Not only that, but even if those stats and those numbers were diminished to some degree, the overall role that he is playing on this Heat team as a scrappy guy who's going to defend every possession down the court, regardless of we're up 50 or down 50, Jaquez is going to slap the floor. He's going to defend. He's going to play very, very hard. He's going to go downhill on the offensive side of things. And even if he doesn't touch the ball offensively, he's screening. He's constantly moving. He's boxing out. He's looking to rebound. And he's really just causing problems for the opposing team, which could be so substantial to any team in the NBA, specifically a team in this Miami Heat organization that really is attempting to be competitive over the last 2 years, not flat out being competitive. And we all know what I mean in the sense that play-in teams, 8 seeds, 7 seeds, that is where the Heat have found themselves over the last 2 to 3 seasons, and Jaquez has fit into his role perfectly, being a scrappy guy, giving this Heat team a little bit of an edge coming off the bench, or again, even in the starting unit when things come down to it. Now, another quote from this article. The first time I thought he started to play well was after the Mexico City game, and then that led to 4 of his stomach issues, and sometimes you just can't control that. There were 3 or 4 instances where he was taken out of the lineup and then 3 sprained ankles. So every time he started to get a rhythm, one of those events would happen. And then it started to ramp up, coming back, and the team would change. And we already had 4 or 5 different changes within the team anyway. And then his role would have to change. There are a lot of young players. What you want more than anything as a young player is consistency and clarity. What's my role? What's expected of me? And that changed due to a lot of those events. And again, that is a quote from head coach Erik Spoelstra, and it's exactly what we were alluding to earlier in this video. Due to the stomach issues, due to the right ankle sprains, constantly missing time in weird increments. We discussed this with Jimmy Butler when he was in and out of the lineup for multiple different reasons, which we ended up finding out all the clarity about later. But the idea was the same. How was this Heat team going to be able to rely on Butler and lean on Jimmy Butler when he's only there for 1 game, then he misses 2, then he's back for 2 games, he misses 3, he's back for a game, he misses 4 games. How is there going to be any clarity, any consistency with this Miami Heat organization, specifically in this scenario for Jaime Jaquez Jr.? How is a young player who's fresh into the league, again, he only played 1 full season up to this point when discussing where these problems were initially taking place at the beginning of last season, how is he supposed to feel confident not only in himself, but the role he is going to maintain on this Heat team when he's a part of a 14, 15-man roster that is actively being used? The Miami Heat and Erik Spoelstra were not shy with throwing out different lineups and different configurations of these lineups and really mix matching how this was actually going to look and how they were going to try to go out there and compete. It was not an easy task for Jaquez, and we watched that as, again, he did struggle this past sophomore year. But now to what he's actually going to work on this summer that could greatly improve Jaquez going into next year, where we won't see much of a slump like we did in his sophomore season. Quote, a lot of repetition, a lot of mental work, a lot of film, Jaquez said of his plan to improve his three-point shooting. Quote, just understanding where I need to put my hands on the ball, understanding the cadence of my shot, and just the reps, really. Just reps. Staying in the gym and living in it. And that's one of the end of the quotes from Jaquez. Anthony Chang would go on to say, Jaquez also wants to become a mentally stronger player this offseason, going on to quote Jaquez here, I think the mental part of the game is almost more important than the physical, said Jaquez, who was taken by the Heat with the 18th overall pick in the 2023 draft. Quote, that's something that I've learned this year. You have to be mentally sharp at all times and never have any lapse, because the second that happens, teams are taking advantage. So what was the biggest lesson this year? So taking that into this offseason, it's something I'm going to work on extremely hard. I'm looking forward to just learning and getting better. Again, this is exactly what you want to hear as a fan of this Miami Heat team that expects Jaquez to be a part of this Miami Heat organization for years to come. Yes, we discussed a trade package involving Jaquez going to Sacramento in exchange for All-Star DeMar DeRozan. And yes, on paper that looks great. But if the Heat are looking to build for the years past, including to win next year, there is ways to hold on to Jaquez while also improving this team greatly with young or veteran age talent going into next season that could greatly improve this Heat team. I would be totally okay with seeing Jaime Jaquez Jr. staying a part of this Heat organization for years to come because of the brand of basketball that he plays that we alluded to earlier. The hard-nosed, gritty, defensive-first basketball. He's always going to play hard. He's going to try to rebound. He's going to box out. He's going to defend. He's going to play downhill. Those are all green flags. These are all things, especially from a young player who had just, up until this season, did not have a lot of injury history. Obviously, it was just the ankle sprains this year. It was no substantial injury in the sense of missing 3 months at a time due to a quad injury or hamstrings or abdominal issues in the sense of actual pulling, cracking ribs, pulling abdominal muscles, if you will, substantial injuries. These are ankle sprains, things that are missing small periods of time at a time. So again, if we could see him log some consistent minutes and get games after game and stack those days, Jaquez could be a key piece to this Miami Heat organization. Now to close out this video, a final quote from Jaime Jaquez Jr. in that article that we've been citing in this video. Quote, sometimes you need that in your life, to just be humbled and get back to propel you forward, Jaquez said. Quote, so that's what I take it as, and I'm excited for this offseason. I'm excited to get back to work. Again, a perfect answer from a young 24-year-old Jaime Jaquez Jr. going into his third year of work in the professional basketball in the NBA. Let me know down below what your expectations are for the young Jaime Jaquez Jr., and I will see you guys on the next episode of Heat Digest.